Hello everyone! Today let's come together to watch a new video from Hoai Ca. That morning, Hoai Ca once again began a new day with her familiar tasks in the small garden behind the house. The early sunlight was still soft and gentle. Rays of light slipped through the tree branches and fell onto the damp ground after the long night, making the garden feel more peaceful and close to nature than ever. Hoai Ca walked slowly along the familiar dirt path, holding a small hoe in her hand, her eyes observing the surroundings while quietly thinking. When she looked toward the patch of land that had only recently been cleared, she couldn't help but sigh softly. Just a few days ago, that area had still been quite open. Only a few scattered weeds had grown on the freshly cleared soil. Yet now, in such a short time, wild grass had grown thick and dense, covering a large part of the land. Bright green blades of grass pushed upward, crowding together and making the newly cleared ground look overgrown once again. Hoai Ca stood there for a moment, looking at the scene with both surprise and a little regret in her heart. Time passes so quickly, sometimes so quickly that people are not even prepared before everything begins to change. She gently brushed aside the grass in front of her, her eyes gazing across the wide piece of land ahead. In her mind, plans for the next planting season slowly appeared again. For Hoai Ca, this land was not simply an empty field. It was a place where she placed her hopes for future harvests, a place she believed would bring many sweet rewards to her family if it were carefully tended and nurtured. Looking at the land, Hoai Ca suddenly remembered something Hùng had said before. He had once told her that people would soon bring trucks of soil to the area, adding more earth and leveling the entire space. After the ground was smoothed out and made more suitable, they would begin preparing it for planting. At that time, Hoai Ca had felt very happy because she thought everything would start soon. But until now, things still seemed to show no clear progress. She stood thinking for a while, feeling both a little impatient and a little regretful. To someone who works with the land, soil is something precious. Every patch of ground has the potential to become a place for planting if it is prepared at the right time. That is why leaving such a wide piece of land unused made Hoai Ca feel that it was truly a waste. She quietly thought that if the leveling work had been done earlier, perhaps preparations for the new season would have already begun. Thinking about that, Hoai Ca told herself that the next time she met Hùng, she would definitely ask him more carefully about it. Perhaps the work had been delayed because everyone was busy, or maybe there were still some things that had not yet been arranged. Whatever the reason, she still wanted to remind him to urge the workers to finish a little faster. Farming seasons cannot wait forever, and land that sits unused for too long is truly a pity. After thinking for a moment, Hoai Ca continued with her work. She bent down and began pulling out small clumps of grass, working while observing the familiar garden around her. Even though the work repeated itself every day, she never felt tired of it. For Hoai Ca, this garden was like a part of her life. Every row of soil, every tree trunk was connected to the many days of careful labor she had devoted here. Not only was Hoai Ca hardworking, but she was also someone who knew how to save and care for her family. Things that seemed small to others still held value for her. Whenever she harvested vegetables, if there were small or imperfect ones that could not be sold at the market, she never threw them away. Instead, Hoai Ca gathered them and brought them home to feed the rabbits. She always believed that in life, if people knew how to arrange and make use of things wisely, almost nothing would be useless. Vegetables too small to sell at the market could still become food for animals at home. Because of that, everything in the household could be used in a practical and economical way. It was this simple way of thinking that helped Hoai Ca keep her life organized and full of purpose. Hoai Ca's life had always been like that. It was not noisy or showy, just quiet days of working and caring for her small family. Each day passed with the garden, with rows of vegetables, and with familiar daily tasks. Although the work could be tiring, there was always a sense of peace and the warm feeling of a home within it. While Hoai Ca was busy working in the garden and going to the market, somewhere else Hùng was also spending time with his own family. That day, he brought his son, little Duc, to visit his grandmother. This was not a place Duc often came to, so when he first stepped into the house, the boy felt a little unfamiliar with everything around him. Duc stood close to his father, his curious eyes looking around the house and the garden. Everything seemed both new and slightly intimidating to him. Hùng noticed this, so he gently knelt down beside his son and patiently explained things to him. He told Duc that his grandmother was not a stranger, but a close member of the family. He also said that this house was part of the home that Duc belonged to as well. Hùng spoke slowly and gently, hoping to make his son feel more comfortable. He told the boy that in the future, Duc would have many chances to come back here again. The boy would spend time with his grandmother, with Hoai Ca, and with little Tony. In Hung's heart, what he wished for most was that the distance created by time and circumstances in the past would gradually disappear. Duc listened carefully to everything his father said. From time to time, the boy asked more questions. Sometimes he asked about the house, sometimes about his grandmother, and other times about Tony. All those questions were innocent, but filled with the curiosity of a child discovering new things around him. At one moment, Duc even said innocently that the house was very beautiful. He said that when he grew up, maybe he would like to live here with his father, his grandmother, and Hoai Ca, and little Tony. Those simple words made Hùng fall silent for a moment. He looked at his son, and his heart suddenly felt warm. Duc's innocent thoughts made him realize that for children, what matters most is not whether a house is big or small, but the feeling of being in a home filled with loved ones. For Hùng, that realization carried even deeper meaning, because he understood that a real home is not just a place that shelters people from the sun and rain. It is also a place where hearts are connected, where each person feels that they truly belong. When he met his mother again, Hùng happily shared some news that he had been waiting for a long time to tell her. He said that his work might soon change. In the near future, there was a chance that he would be transferred to work somewhere closer to home. This was something Hùng had hoped for during a long period of time. Living and working far away had always made him feel that something was missing. Whenever he thought about his family, his mother, his son, and the people he loved, his heart often felt heavy. So when he learned that he might soon return to work closer to home, he could not hide his happiness. That news felt like a big turning point for him, opening the hope of living closer to his family. When his mother heard this, she was deeply moved as well. She looked at her son with joy shining in her eyes. For many years, she had always worried about him living and working far away. Now that he said he might soon come back closer to home, she felt a great sense of relief. She even said that if Hùng and Duc could move back to live nearby, the house would become much warmer. She wished to spend more time with her grandson and make up for the moments when she had not been able to be close to him before. In her thoughts, the house would no longer be as quiet as it used to be. Instead, it would be filled with the laughter and voices of children and grandchildren, with family meals shared together and warm days spent side by side. And from those simple things, it seemed that a new life was slowly beginning to unfold ahead of them. Since spending time near his grandmother, little Duc gradually began to feel the warmth of family affection that he had rarely experienced before. At first, the boy was still a little shy. His eyes occasionally looked around as if searching for something familiar. But his grandmother patiently stayed by his side, gently talking with him with all the tenderness of someone who had lived through many years of life. She took small candies out of a box, carefully unwrapping each one before handing them to Duck. In a slow and gentle voice, she asked about his school life, whether he liked going to school, whether he had fun playing with his friends, and whether he behaved well in class. Those seemingly ordinary questions slowly helped Duck feel more comfortable. The boy began answering politely, sometimes even giving a shy smile. At one moment, his grandmother looked at him for a long time and quietly sighed. In her eyes there was a deep emotion that was difficult to express in words. She spoke softly to Duck, telling him that in the past she had not had many chances to be close to him, nor had she been able to care for him the way a grandmother truly should. She admitted that this had always been something that weighed on her heart. Her voice slowed as she apologized to her grandson. She hoped that Duck could understand and forgive her for the time they had lost before. From now on, she only wished to be closer to him and to give him the love she should have been able to give a long time ago. Although her words were simple, they carried deep affection. Duck was still young, but he could feel the sincerity in every word she spoke. At first, he seemed slightly awkward, but gradually he began to relax. The boy sat closer to his grandmother, accepting the candies, answering her questions, and sometimes even asking her a few things in return. That moment made the atmosphere in the house feel warmer. It was easy to see that family affection may sometimes come late, but when family members open their hearts to each other, that warmth can still feel complete. With sincerity and a little time, the distance between loved ones can slowly disappear. After leaving his mother's house, Hùng continued taking Duck to Hoài Ca's place. On the way there, the sky began to drizzle. Light raindrops fell gently, making the road feel quieter than usual. When the two of them arrived, Hoài Ca had just returned from the market. That day she had brought back some sweet potatoes she had sold at the market earlier. The morning's work had made her a little tired, but when she saw Hùng and Duck standing at the door, her face immediately brightened. Hoài Ca quickly set down the baskets she was carrying, smiled warmly, and began asking how the two of them were doing. She bent down to look at Duck and gently asked whether he was tired or if the rain had made him wet on the way there. Her caring attitude immediately made the boy feel more comfortable. Even though she was not his blood relative, the way she spoke and cared for him made him feel the same warmth as in a family. When she heard that Duck had received many candies from his grandmother, Hoài Ca smiled softly. She gently reminded him that if he had many sweets, he should remember to save some for Tony. Her voice carried no criticism at all, just a gentle reminder so that the two children could learn to share with one another. After that, Hoài Ca also encouraged Duck to visit his grandmother more often. At first it might feel unfamiliar, she said, but if they met more frequently, he would gradually get used to it. Once that happened, the bond between grandmother and grandson would naturally grow stronger. To her, relationships within a family always need time to develop, but as long as people open their hearts to each other, those connections will become stronger over time. Duck listened carefully to everything Hoài Ca said. He nodded, and his eyes looked less shy than before. Hùng stood beside them and felt relieved seeing this scene. He understood that simple yet sincere words could sometimes help a child feel more comfortable and connected with the people around him. Knowing that Duck enjoyed playing with Tony, Hùng suddenly thought of bringing Tony home so the two children could play together. He turned to Hoài Ca and suggested inviting Tony over for lunch so the two boys could spend time together and make the house feel more lively with children's laughter. Hoài Ca agreed immediately. For her, letting the children play together was always a joyful thing. She quickly began preparing lunch. Inside the familiar small kitchen, Hoài Ca started lighting the stove. The flame flickered beneath a pot of water that had been set up to boil sweet potatoes. She washed rice and prepared to cook, her hands moving quickly while still paying attention to everyone around her. Meanwhile, Duc did not just sit still and watch. The boy willingly stood beside Hoai Ca to help with small tasks. When Hoai Ca brought out a basket of sweet potatoes to wash, Duc quickly stepped forward. He carefully picked up each potato, rinsed it under the running water, and placed it neatly back into the basket. His movements were still a little clumsy, but he worked with great focus. Sometimes he even asked whether he was doing it correctly. Besides washing the potatoes, Duc also helped with small things in the kitchen, sometimes handing over items, sometimes helping carry things outside. They were all small tasks, but enough to show that he was polite and willing to help. Seeing this made Hoai Ca appreciate the boy even more. She realized that although Duc was still young, he had clearly been raised with care. He knew how to greet others, how to listen to adults, and he never hesitated to help when he could. Those small qualities made Hoai Ca feel even closer to him. Inside that small house, the atmosphere gradually became warmer and more comforting. The sound of running water, the bubbling pot of sweet potatoes on the stove, and the soft conversations between everyone created a very simple yet meaningful scene. Nothing particularly big or dramatic was happening. It was simply a modest lunch being prepared, a pot of fragrant boiled sweet potatoes, and children looking forward to meeting each other and playing together. Yet it was precisely these simple moments that created a special sense of peace. Within that small space, the closeness of family affection could be clearly felt. Simple meals, small household tasks, and gentle conversations between adults and children all blended together to create a warm and welcoming atmosphere. It was a kind of happiness that did not need to be displayed or spoken aloud. Just by looking at those moments, anyone could feel the quiet peace present in every corner of the house. And from those simple moments, the bonds within the family gradually grew stronger and closer over time. On another day, when the events and stories from before had gradually settled down, Hoai Ca's life returned to the familiar rhythm of working in the small garden behind her home. Every morning, when the sunlight just began to slip through the tree branches and spread across the ground, she would already be outside, checking each row of vegetables and every plant as if it were an indispensable daily habit. For Hoai Ca, that garden was not simply a place for growing crops. It was a place tied to her effort, her hopes, and also the everyday worries of her life. That day, as she walked slowly along the familiar rows of vegetables, Hoai Ca let out a quiet sigh. The weather was beginning to change with the season, and that shift had clearly started to affect the garden. Some rows of vegetables that had once been lush and green were now showing signs of withering. There were plants that still looked beautiful, their leaves still fresh and green, but if they were not harvested in time, they would quickly begin to spoil. Looking at those rows of vegetables, Hoai Ca could not help but feel regret for all the effort she had put into caring for them over the past weeks. It was not only the vegetables. The bean vines in the garden were also producing so many pods that it was almost impossible to harvest them quickly enough. The beans hung heavily from the trellises, making the garden look abundant and prosperous at first glance. Yet Hoai Ca knew very well that if they were not picked in time, within just a few days they would become old and lose their value. The tomato plants were also reaching the final days of their season. The remaining red tomatoes hanging on the branches brought Hoai Ca both joy and worry, because she knew that very soon the entire tomato harvest would come to an end. For someone who worked with the land, such sights were both familiar and troubling. Sometimes a garden full of produce could make life seem plentiful and secure. But a sudden change in weather or a delay in harvesting could quickly turn all that hard work into loss. Hoai Ca understood that better than anyone else, because every row of vegetables in the garden was the result of days and days of careful tending. Even so, Hoai Ca never allowed herself to sink into discouragement. After thinking quietly for a while, she began calculating how to make the best use of what was still good. The young bean pods would be picked early to cook for family meals. The vegetables that were still fresh would be taken to the market to sell. And the ones that could not be sold could still be shared with neighbors or used as food for the animals at home. For Hoai Ca, knowing how to make use of everything and share with others was the best way to ensure that none of her hard work went to waste. She had long been used to looking at life in a simple way. If a person knew how to arrange things wisely and handle them carefully, almost nothing would truly be useless. It was that perseverance and hard-working nature that helped her remain calm whenever life changed. Around that same time, Hùng had quietly prepared a small surprise for Hoai Ca, something she knew nothing about. After thinking about it many times, he decided to buy a used refrigerator for the family. The refrigerator was not new, but it was still working very well. To Hùng, what mattered most was not the appearance of the item, but how useful it would be in their daily life. He knew that Hoai Ca often worried about food spoiling, especially during hot days. Vegetables harvested from the garden could not stay fresh for long, and eggs or cooked meals could quickly be affected by the heat. That was why he hoped this refrigerator would help make her daily work a little easier. When Hùng brought the refrigerator home and placed it in the corner of the kitchen, Hoai Ca could not hide her surprise. At first, she stood still for a few seconds, as if she had not yet understood what was happening. But when she realized that Hùng had brought it home for the family, her eyes immediately brightened. Joy clearly appeared on her face. For many people, a refrigerator might simply be a common household appliance. But for Hoai Ca, it was something she had thought about for a very long time. She did not care whether it was new or used. What moved her most was the fact that the family now had something that would help make their life a little less difficult. After that, Hùng patiently showed Hoai Ca how to use it. He opened each compartment to explain which part was the refrigerator and which part was the freezer. He carefully reminded her that before plugging it in, the refrigerator should be left standing for a while so that everything inside could stabilize. He also explained how to clean it and how to arrange food properly so that it would stay fresh longer. Those small instructions carried genuine care within them. Hoai Ca listened carefully to everything he said, nodding as if she wanted to remember every detail. Hùng did not stop there. He even began thinking further about their future life together. He said that if he and Little Duc eventually moved closer to live with them, the refrigerator would still be large enough for everyone in the house to use. For people living under one roof, sharing simple but warm family meals, that was something he had always hoped for. He also mentioned the idea of preparing a small bed for Tony to sleep on when he grew older. In addition, he thought about arranging a small corner of the house as a study space for the boy. These plans were not anything grand, but they carried the care and responsibility of someone who was slowly trying to build a home for his family step by step. Since the refrigerator appeared in the house, Hoai Ca's daily life gradually became more convenient. She could harvest produce from the garden without worrying that everything had to be used on the same day. The last tomatoes of the season were carefully picked and placed neatly inside the refrigerator. Eggs were also stored properly so they could last longer. Food left over from meals no longer had to be used immediately as before. Thanks to the refrigerator, Hoai Ca felt that managing the household had become easier. Every time she opened the refrigerator to take something out, a small sense of happiness quietly appeared in her heart. That happiness was not something big, but for Hoai Ca it was a sign that her life was slowly changing for the better. Things that once seemed ordinary had become a source of encouragement for her to keep moving forward each day. At lunch that day, the two of them sat together beside a simple meal of cabbage-wrapped meat. The atmosphere in the house felt peaceful and warm. In the middle of the meal, Hùng suddenly brought up a conversation they had talked about before the Lunar New Year. He reminded Hoai Ca about the idea of learning herbal medicine from the elderly man they had met. Hùng said that if she had the time, she should try to learn from him. It would not only be a skill that might help their life in the future, but also a way to appreciate the kindness of an old man who wished to pass on his knowledge. But when mentioning the old man, Hùng suddenly spoke about a strange feeling that had always stayed in his mind. He said that he did not understand why, but every time he met that old man, he felt as if there was some special connection between him and Hoai Ca's family. When she heard those words, Hoai Ca suddenly fell silent. She did not respond immediately and simply lowered her head slightly. After a moment, she quietly said that since she was young, she had already become used to accepting the missing pieces in her family. There were things she had once wondered about and once felt sad about, but over time she had learned to let those things follow their own fate. Realizing that he might have accidentally touched a sensitive part of her heart, Hùng quickly apologized. But Hoai Ca only smiled gently and told him that it was all right. To her, the past was no longer something too important, because now she had Hùng by her side. She had Tony, and she had a home that, although simple, was filled with love and warmth. That life might not be completely perfect yet, but for Hoai Ca, it was already enough to make her feel grateful and give her the faith to continue walking forward on the path ahead. The story of Hoai Ca therefore gradually becomes deeper than what people might see in the ordinary tasks of her everyday life. From the outside, her life seems to revolve only around the small garden behind the house, the rows of vegetables, the bean trellises, the sweet potatoes, and the red tomatoes that ripen with each passing season. But if one pauses for a moment and looks more closely, it becomes clear that behind those seemingly simple things lies a long journey of diligence, perseverance, and a heart that always thinks of her family. Hoai Ca is not someone who lives in abundance or luxury. Her days are closely tied to the land, to the work in the garden, and to the small calculations that help ensure everything in the household runs smoothly. She is used to waking up early, used to observing each row of vegetables to see what needs care or harvesting that day. To her, every plant in the garden is like a part of life itself. They are not only a source of food, but also the result of many quiet days of hard work. Because of that, whenever she sees vegetables damaged by weather or crops that cannot be harvested in time, Hoai Ca always feels regretful. Yet what makes her truly admirable is that no matter how much she regrets those losses, she never lets herself sink into sadness for long. Instead, she finds ways to make use of whatever can still be used, shares with neighbors when possible, and begins again with a calm and steady spirit. That perseverance and thriftiness are what have helped Hoai Ca keep her life stable through the passing days. But this story is not only about Hoai Ca. Beside her stands Hùng, a man who quietly tries to bring peace and stability to the people he loves. Hùng is not someone who speaks with fancy or poetic words. Instead, he expresses his feelings through simple yet sincere actions. It may be his quiet concern in everyday matters, his habit of thinking ahead for the future of the family, or even the small things he brings home to make Hoai Ca's life a little easier. The used refrigerator he prepared for her is a perfect example. To outsiders, it might be just an ordinary household appliance. But for Hoai Ca and Hùng, it represents a small sign that their life is gradually moving toward something better. Hùng often thinks about the family's future. He imagines a time when Duc can live closer to them, when Tony will have his own small bed as he grows older, and when there will be a quiet corner in the house where the children can study. These plans may seem simple, but they carry within them deep love and responsibility. And within this story, there are also children like Duc and Tony. They are still young, but day by day they are growing up surrounded by care and affection. The laughter of children in the yard, the simple games they play together, and the family meals they share all help make the small house feel warmer. Duc is slowly becoming familiar with his grandmother and with the house that once felt strange to him. Tony is also growing more attached to the people around him. These children may not yet understand everything about life, but they are growing up in the security of a home filled with family love. And that feeling will become a beautiful memory they will carry with them for many years to come. Amid all the struggles of daily life, amid seasons that sometimes bring good harvests and sometimes disappointment, and amid worries that never fully disappear, the most precious thing is that they still have one another. Each member of the family is trying in their own way to protect and preserve that home. Happiness does not always come from big or extraordinary things. Sometimes it begins with very small moments. A simple lunch after a morning of gardening, a pot of freshly boiled sweet potatoes on the stove, or an old refrigerator filled with carefully stored food. Happiness can also be found in a grandmother's gentle questions for her grandson, in the caring look Hùng gives to Hoài Ca, or in the quiet hand that one family member reaches out to another. All those small moments, when woven together, create a life full of meaning. Hoài Ca's life may not be glamorous, and it may not contain extraordinary events, but it holds a very real warmth. It is a kind of happiness built from sincerity, patience, and the love shared by people who walk through life together day by day. And it is precisely from these simple things that Hoài Ca's life now seems to be moving toward a new chapter, one where hope becomes clearer, family bonds grow stronger, and the small house fills more and more with laughter. The stories ahead will surely hold many more moments waiting to unfold. The journey of Hoài Ca, Hùng, and the people in their family will continue to be written through ordinary days that carry deep meaning. Stay tuned for the next videos to follow the new developments in Hoài Ca's story, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the chapters that come next.
Xin chào mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Thì hôm nay mình đang làm video. Bây giờ thì mình vừa làm xong video về Hùng và Hoài Ca, và mình sẽ đăng tải video này lên vào lúc 19 giờ tối nay. Bây giờ thì mình đang chọn cho video một tiêu đề hay và hấp dẫn để có thể mọi người có thể ấn xem ngay khi thấy video. Cảm ơn mọi người rất nhiều. Hẹn gặp lại mọi người trong những video tiếp theo. Bye bye.